We have more than enough to talk about. Considering my show, considering that my show is only 30 minutes long and you have a lifetime of amazing things to talk about, more than I can say that the average senior I've ever met.
Thank you. I love you when you throw the word senior in there.
When did you start even identifying yourself as a senior? Because my grandma still hates to be called a senior.
Well, like you said, I've done so much. I look the way I do. I really like to let people, and really it's not about telling the young ones that I'm a senior. It's more telling seniors that I'm a senior and that you too can do the things that I'm doing. You know, that the thing about society when they start looking at numbers is that they also have this image of what you're supposed to be by the time you're a certain number. And that's just not so.
Have you always been this flamboyant personality and just so exotic and fancy and elegant and just creative in your looks?
In my look, yes, I learned a long time ago, even though, well, when I was in high school, I used to get beat up a lot because I'm an only child. I talk strange. I have different ideas about what I want to do. And so I'll take it back. I won't say I got beat up. I'll say that I got threatened to be beat up many times. A couple of times I did. And it was a thing of because I was trying to fit in, you know, so I'm trying to fit in with girls and people that they dress a certain way or they look a certain way. And it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Yes. And
I relate.
Yes. And then I remember one time I was always wearing hand-me-down clothes because my mother, she was doing the best she can to raise a teenage daughter. So I never complained about it. One day I started saving. She got me a sewing machine. I started saving my money. I made my first skirt. And for the first time, I'm a junior in high school now. This is the first time I ever wore something new.
I'm going to stop you right there only because I'm afraid that I'm so interested in you personally that I'm not going to keep the format of the show in the right order of the things I want to ask you. And let's build up to that point because I'm going into this not really knowing you very well. So I want to know all the bullet points, but let's build on it as though other people are watching.
All right, that's fine.
All right, so I'm going to edit most of this kind of stuff in the beginning, but let's start. Okay, let's see. Welcome to my show. Welcome to my show, Lady Mari. I hope I'm saying your name correctly.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yep. And you go by Mari Lewis. You go by Lady Mari. You go by America's Sultry Senior. You also go by Shadow. You have a lot of monikers.
Because really, you need to reinvent yourself every now and then. You really do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what keeps you fresh. Now, it would be nice if you could be someone like Elvira or Tina Turner, where you can be what you are for the rest of your life, you know, and that's it.
Well, then you're stuck because you created that niche of just, This is how you are. Elvira always has to be dark and spooky, even though that's just a persona that she has, but it's a great persona. But I want to start, now the reason that I reached out to you is because I had noticed that you had posted something about celebrating Kwanzaa. And Kwanzaa starts the day after Christmas and it goes until January 2nd? Is that
New
correct?
Year's Day. New Year's Day.
January 1st. And I have had a very difficult time. I've reached out to so many friends and nobody seems to celebrate Kwanzaa. So I don't really know a lot about the holiday. I haven't done a lot of research on it yet. However, I really wanted to know, first of all, when did you start celebrating? Did your family celebrate? And then what kind of traditions do you follow in your celebration? And what does it mean to you?
Well, it started in 1966, but I did not discover it until I really was in high school in 1972. No, my family knew nothing about it. I'm from African roots. So the concept of Christmas when I got here to this country was still something new to me. And the one thing that as I got older, I found out that it wasn't, and people will get me on this, that Christmas was not about the faith. It was about the presents. And I saw so many of people that were in my poor range of income, families going into serious debt to make sure they celebrated Christmas the way it needed to be celebrated. And at the time, I'm living with my mother, who is trying to support a teenage daughter. We didn't have that kind of money, but she still went into debt to give me my first Christmas with her. And it was kind of interesting because she actually broke down and cried when I told her. I said, I didn't go all this way, wait till I'm 14, 15 years old to live with you, to celebrate a holiday I know nothing about. I found out about Kwanzaa because I did want something. Now, Kwanzaa started because Blacks were trying, just after the civil rights movement, they're trying to find out about their heritage. And this started off as a harvest festival from West Africa. So it's all about the harvest. It's all about the 7 days and the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. And I love that. It has nothing to do with presents. It has nothing to do with religion. Now, religion jumped into it because at some point it's going to cover a Sunday. So of course, people are going to go to church. And when they go to church, okay, if the church wants to jump in there and do a little Kwanzaa, that's fine. But it's not celebrated as much now simply because it's become confused. I got into it. I tried to do it, quote, traditional. Now, traditional was dressing in the Kwanzaa African clothing. It was wearing the hats and the crowns and etc. It was the 7 candle thing. I didn't have any of that stuff when I started. I'm still in high school. Over the years, I tried to find groups, but again, I'm not religious. So I didn't want to go to church to celebrate this holiday. Over the years, it's like anything else. You celebrate it the way that works for you. When I celebrate, the clothes are out of the equation. As I said, there's no gifts, even though people who don't know think that we get a gift every day. People confuse it with Hanukkah because there's 7 candles involved. And I didn't even know anything about that candle thing until somebody gave me one for Kwanzaa. I was going, what is this? Well, you use the same candles as they do in, Hanukkah. So here's one for you. No, I light 1 candle a day. And usually it's the same bloody candle because what's important are the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. Now, if you don't mind, I'll read them to you.
Please. I would love to hear the 7 principles of Kwanzaa.
Okay. Now let me find out, where did I put it? Because apparently I didn't bring it in here. Oh, yes, I have it. I only remember like 3 because they are important to me. And the 7 principles are just family-oriented things that the family recognizes. Things like like we do New Year's Eve resolutions. That's what the principles are. And they're not in any order. That was another thing I had to learn the hard way, is that I don't have to do this in any order. Okay. All right. The first one is called umoja. And that is unity, which is unity of the family. Second is ujima. Ujima is a collective responsibility. Again, this is a harvest festival. So it's really talking about the tribe. All right. So the family, the tribe. Ujama is cooperative economics, which, being a harvest festival, it's about us pulling all of our collective fields together and things so that we can support the tribe. All right. Next one is niyat. It's purpose. We've collected, we've come together, we've got the elders. Now, what is our purpose for the next year? Right? Kumba is creativity because it's a festival. We are celebrating a wonderful harvest, right? Family getting together. My favorite, that it took me a long time to figure out how to say this. Kujishagulia. Okay. Oh, yeah. It is self-determination of yourself, how you can be productive to the tribe. And of course,
self-determination is a mouthful too. Yeah, that's definitely
just a word. It took me a long time to get that one. And then imani, which is faith. And that is, I always celebrate that one the 7th, the last day, because it is about faith. Now you're going to go on faith that you're going to have a good harvest next year. You're going to have wonderful births in the tribe and et cetera and so on. And this is all based on West African culture. And that's what I've done through the years. And yes, I celebrate it by myself. It's hard when there are people who believe they have to give you a gift at Christmas. This Christmas time, everybody gets a gift. They don't understand when I tell them, okay, you can give me a gift. I will not open it until Kwanzaa. If I give you a gift, I will not share it with you until Kwanzaa. It has made a lot of enemies, a lot of problems.
Really? I had a best friend when I was 19 and she celebrated Kwanzaa. And she told me that part of it was making something or sharing something that was handmade. And so I would make her something and she would make me something. So that was my first introduction, but she didn't explain or share all the principles. And I don't, and she wasn't Black. She wasn't African at all. But she had been introduced to it through some boyfriends of hers that were. And she liked the principles and she liked the idea behind it because she was also not someone who celebrated Christmas. So that became her whole family's way of celebrating every year. So it was interesting that my first introduction was a white family that actually told me about it. But I do notice that you have an accent. Where are you from?
I'm born U.S. I was
Okay.
born in 1955. Senior, okay. 1955 here in America. But again, what happened was that for the Black community, my mother could not have me with her and earn a living. It was a strife time. So what she first did was pass me to the family. Well, we had a unit. My father dead in Africa because he fought the war and etc. But I had a grandmother there who demanded her granddaughter. So at the age of 3, they sent me to stay with her. Long story short, I wound up having to come back to the U.S. At the age of about 12, maybe closer to 13, because unbeknownst to me until I got very, very much older, the only way that she got me to come to Africa and for this family that she was a domestic in was to promise them that I would be that family's indentured servant. So wow. I was really brought there to be the forever servant of the daughter of that household.
I can't believe that even existed in your lifetime, that something like that kind of a transactionary relationship happened. And you were born in 1955. I mean, that's blows my mind. That's crazy. And where was this at? What part of the US were you in?
Well, I was born in Newport, Rhode Island, but most of the family was in the South. And in Africa, it was Cape Town, Africa, which is southern, very ritzy area. Yeah, very ritzy.
Very ritzy.
But, that's what she had to do because she wanted her granddaughter. She was all alone. Her son was dead and everything. But at the age of 12, the woman who ran the household decided she wanted to get me fixed because she didn't want, as she put it, all these Black boys running around sniffing her like a bitch in heat. So because of the fact I was military, my father was military, my mother was military, the military always checked up on me. So it was like they had this eye on me. And it was really interesting because when they would come to check on me, there were things that they would do in the house to make it seem like I was being treated well, which I wasn't. She finally broke down to them and told them that I had to go because this is what was going to happen. And so I wound up coming back to the States. Unfortunately, again, my mother could not take me. So I became a pass-around child. I went from relative to relative to relative to relative. And then Memphis, Tennessee, which I will tell everybody. I lived in Memphis, Tennessee during the reign of King. I was in Memphis, Tennessee when King was killed. But I would not change any time that I spent in Memphis, Tennessee because of the music. My life turned around when I hit Memphis, Tennessee and discovered soul music. Oh, yes. But even that had a short lifespan because right after King died, segregation came back threefold. And they were going to send us to a school that was not even on our map until King died. Suddenly, we were rerouted and said, oh, you're in that demographic for this school. And it was an all-Black school, high school, that they decided they were going to let up to 6th graders go into. They were going to redo it so 6, 7, and 8 could go into it, and then high school. And this school had the highest teenage pregnancy rate in the county. So I just told my mother and grandmother, I said, okay, if I go to this school, I'm either going to do 2 things, pregnant or dead. And I can tell you now, I'm not going to be pregnant. So I got to live with my mother, but by that time I was very close to 15.
Wow. And so you have such a fascinating history. We could probably spend more than an hour doing a show on you, just on that part of your story, really, honestly. Just on that much, but that isn't even beginning to tell us who you are, because that tells you a little bit about the roots of where you came from. But the fact about who you are, and I'll give a little bit of history, but you and I don't know each other very well. However, I used to manage a store, and the store was an oddities and steampunk shop that had been kind of a frivolous whim of the owner to open, but she needed management. And I wasn't even into this cosplay community myself. I was a rockabilly girl. And I ended up being thrust into this position of manager of a steampunk shop, and I had to Google what steampunk was. Okay. And I ended up interviewing almost every customer about what steampunk was to them. And I ended up meeting a lot of cosplayers. I've never been to Comic-Con myself. I've never cosplayed myself, except for on Halloween, if you count that. But I've always had a flair for dramatic style and creating my own little personas. So there you go. I kind of have my own way of fitting into the cosplay community. But you, on the other hand, have this long history. And I really want to get into, you were a trapeze artist in Barnum and Bailey.
The Ringling Brothers, Barnum Bailey Circus. And that it was a mistake that I got it, but I will never turn back and say it was a life I loved. And it's a life that was good to me for 20 years.
20 years. What year did you get into this? Was it right after high school or?
Oh, no. It was 1984. Okay. And an audition came up. I had never seen a circus. I'd never been to a circus. And here I am auditioning for this circus because this girl wanted to go to it. And they wound up picking me, just long story short. And originally was showgirl. But I was already 2 ballet companies underneath my belt. I was very muscular, not very muscular, but sinewy dance type of muscular. And as you say, very flair. I love the showgirl aspect of the circus. And so when I got there, my whole life up to that point, even with musical theater, because of my body type, it was always a fight. It's always like with ballet, you always got to be thin. So I'm always having to lose weight because I'm not thin. Okay. With musical theater, it was because of the fact that I had big thighs and they were muscular. Oh, we need to slim that down so you can wear tights and etc. I got into the circus, and the first woman that I saw was this little white Polish woman. She walked up, her name was Nelly Panoff, and she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And she had a 4-pack on her abdomen. She had this, but it was in proportion to her body. And no one thought it was strange. She was very fit, and no one thought anything of it because I learned the body is going to develop for whatever the job it needs to do. And it was so nice to be in something where I wasn't looked at like an oddity because I wasn't fitting the iconic image.
You're pretty tall. How tall are you?
I'm 5'5".
Oh, you're 5'5", but I've seen you only in heels then.
Oh, yes. I wear my 5-inch heels. Oh, yes. Because I won't date anybody that's under 6 feet. Okay. I know that's kind of like a nasty thing to say, but I'm sorry, girls. I love tall men. Tall ladies too.
And I was so glad. Everyone kept telling me, you got to connect with Lady Mari. She's the person to bring people who are costumed to the events that I was holding at the store. And you showed up. I remember your outfit. You had white contacts in. You had your vampire teeth in. You had a massive staff. And you were dressed all in like grayish tones and white. I don't know if your hair was white or gray, but you just had this scary, dramatic persona that you had showed up in. And I was just like, wow, what is this character? She's amazing. You look like some Marvel comic book hero that just showed up to save the day. And then you would bring these fantastic costumed people everywhere that you went, and you just had a lot of fun. And like you said, it's breaking the stereotypes down. It's so funny because when I used to run that steampunk shop, so many people had a stigma about steampunk. When I would tell them, I manage a steampunk shop, they said, oh, for kids? I'm like, how kids can afford what we have in the store? First of all, most of my customers are well over 40, and they'll spend $700 to $1,000 on one outfit. So no, kids come in and wish they could buy one little thing, but it was other adults who think that they can't, that cosplay and dressing up and playing dress up is for this always for younger people, no matter how old they are. They were all young at one point. No matter how old they are, they think it's for younger people. But you are not that person. And I love that you promote people dressing up and promote having fun with your looks. So what is this Vamp Exotica thing that you do? I'm kind of curious because I like vampires. I do. I do have a thing for them.
Well, I've loved vampires since the first Hammer film that I saw when I was in high school. I love Hammer films. Christopher Lee, you know, all those folks, Frank Langella. And the thing that got me was that the vampire women were always so well dressed. They had wonderful locations. This wasn't those things of Dracula sleeping on a slab someplace, okay? And everybody wearing black, okay? And once I got into cosplay, once I discovered Victoriana, I love Victoriana, and that led me into my vampire. And then I made the decision that my vampire was going to dress well. That's all there is to it. She's going to be out there simply because most people don't see a chocolate vampire. Now, when I first started it, it was as Lady Shadow because that was my cosplay. But I had to, like I said, you have to reinvent yourself. The thing with Lady Shadow was that I found, you know, you can tell I'm out there. I'm animated.
I like it.
I'm sort of like the chocolate Elvira, okay? And Lady Shadow was a little more demure because it was coming out of my trapeze, okay? And so I thought I got to pick a name that kind of tells people what I do without me having to explain it all the time. And next thing I know, I created Vamp Zodica. And Vamp Zodica is a vampire. She is a cross between Eartha Kitt, Mae West, and Jessica Rabbit.
Ooh.
Oh,
that
yes.
Is quite the combination right there. I love it.
All you got to do is dress her up and she's good to go.
And so where does she go?
Right now, well, unfortunately, with the pandemic, she don't go very far, but she's getting a lot of video time.
2020, yeah. Oh, she is. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can follow her.
All of her. And the thing about it is that I've always wanted to get back into performing. There was a time that I retired. So I'd say about the age of 55 was the last time I did my last trapeze performance. And up from 55 to 64, I was a corporate legal secretary paralegal. And then that's why there was Lady Mari's Walkabout, because you still have to have your outlet. So I started Lady Mari's Walkabout, costume walkabout, because of the fact they had all these cosplayers, people that go to Comic-Con. They make these costumes, as you know, and they're expensive. Either you're making them, you're buying them, you're accessorizing them, and you wear that one thing, and then there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So I started Lady Mari's Costume Walkabout at an antique show over in Del Mar, big one. And
I've been to that one.
It kind of blossomed to the symphony. It blossomed to La Jolla Art Festival. As people started to call me to have my walkers walk because they come from all walks of life, all ages. There would always be a theme. And the entire thing about my walkabout for 15 years was that it's about getting all dressed up and having somewhere to go with friends. And that is my life. When I get dressed up, that's it. I want to
decided to stop this last year. Was that last year that you kind of stopped doing the costume walkabouts?
I stopped doing it. Yeah, it was probably close to 2018 because it wasn't the fact it was always a labor of love. Okay. And sometimes I would have as many as 75 people walking. I mean, I would feel a
lot of organizing.
But you know, the people were also easy to work with because I'm not working with children. I'm not working with egos. It was just that collective mind. We're all going to get together, get all dressed up in our finery and just have a good time. And that's what it's all about. There was no money involved, but it was always free tickets, being treated well, a lot of press. And that right there sometimes is better than money. Sometimes I'd say we have to have a gift. You know, like some places would give us gift baskets that I would raffle off to the walkers so that they would have something for putting all this work in, for coming and making your event even better than it was. So that lasted 15 years. After the 15 years, though, like I said, it came 2018. What was my next adventure? I decided to become a pageant queen.
Now that's exciting too. So you already have a title. You just decided to get into pageantry in 2018, and you've already had how many titles?
I have 4.
4. Okay, what are your
Miss Senior
titles?
San Diego. I am 2018. I'm Miss Senior California for 2019 and 2020, and I am Miss Sapphire for the Lady Vegas International pageant. And then I created the Sultry Senior because somebody had to take it.
Well, you're definitely that. That's a great title for you. And I just want to circle back, and this is, I know we're all over the place because there's too much. You have so much. You have so many fascinating details of your life. That's why it's not the Kwanzaa show; it's the Lady Mari show. And and I want to circle back to Ringling Brothers. You you entered as a showgirl. How did you learn to become a trapeze artist? You mean you're swinging through the air like you don't care?
I love that phrase. I'm so sorry I'm not still doing trapeze, because I'd use that, because there is a difference in trapeze. There is the flying trapeze. Now that is where you fly and you get caught. And then there's what they call single or static trapeze. The difference is swinging trapeze always has a net. Static trapeze, which is what I do, doesn't use a net. So when I do my trapeze, you fly through the air with swinging trapeze, but you can still swing with static trapeze. You just never leave your bar.
Okay.
But you also never have a net. A little more mystery there, okay? A little more excitement there. And I trained in it just because of the fact you can learn things in the circus. It's any venue that you do, anything you do. If you really open your mind, you can learn something. And I was fascinated because, again, this woman had this perfect body, and I wanted a part of it. And my body loved trapeze. Now, I was also ballet trained, so I was very stretchy. So she also happened to be a contortionist. So what I asked her was that I'd really like to learn trapeze and contortion. And she was very honest, because she said, okay, in her Russian, she says, I have been doing contortion since I was 5. I'm not a good teacher, but I will watch you. And if there's something you're doing wrong, I will correct it. And that's what she did my entire time there. But she would just correct me.
As trapeze, a contortionist, don't you have to be kind of double jointed? Is that usually the case?
How you train. Okay. The people that people pay attention to are those that are double jointed, because that's kind of the freakish part of it. Okay. Yeah. But you can be trained to use your muscles. You may not be able to do everything that a contortionist does, but you will reach your plateau. Unfortunately, I only had a very short lifespan as a contortionist, because the realm changed, the community changed to, they only wanted to see Asians doing contortion. And it was really kind of sad. People look at me. I missed a music video once with David Bowie because they called in a contortionist. They said, oh, we'd like to have a coach, da-da-da. I was available. They called me in for the interview, and I walked in. They said, what's a you? I said, well, I'm the contortionist that you brought in. Have my pictures, my video and everything. But it wasn't what they had in mind, not a chocolate one. And it was and when I saw what they had used, she's like a one-trick pony. Of course, I'm mean about that, but she was a one-trick pony. She had one move, and that's all she did. But trapeze, on the other hand, I took that to the levels I could take it, because it made a beautiful body.
I hear a snapping. Is that something you're doing?
I'm sorry.
It's really loud. Down. Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. Put my pen down. But trapeze, it developed the body, and the body would develop depending on what you're doing. So the only thing about Ringling was, for the time that I spent there, no one told me that I could audition for Ringling and put those skills to use, because Ringling kept an eye on me. When I finally left after my contract was up, they actually wanted me to become head showgirl. But I was still a dancer. I wanted to sing. I wanted to go to LA. I wanted to perform. Circus was great. They had put me in to do Siegfried and Roy, to be one of the performers there. But that fell through, and I will not go into how that fell through. But it was great to meet Siegfried and Roy. Oh, love Roy. Love the tigers. Love cats.
Love the tigers. Yeah.
And I still have a friend who runs a tiger ranch. I'm from Rump. I get a chance to go up there and play. But it's fun. And because the one thing too about Ringling is that once you're a member of that family, you're always a member of that family. We're everywhere. You run into.
Are they still around?
Unfortunately, they closed in 2018, and when I was in it, just in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, it started at the 128th edition, 128 years by the time I was in. So by the time they ended, they were very over, close to the 200 mark. So that was a history that was lost. Most of us cried, a lot of us cried. But in the back of my mind, I see a tribute circus coming that will bring all that sparkling, because Cirque du Soleil is wonderful. It's amazing.
I love Cirque du Soleil.
I love it too. But I have to admit, it's the American icon, Ringling Brothers, because they gave you a world, because it was, it came out of the Depression. It came out of a war when they started putting the circuses together. And what it did was it brought you in for that space of 2 hours, gave you a world where you could leave your troubles behind.
Did you like that movie, The Greatest Showman?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my gosh, you totally need to see that. It's magical.
Because I love him as Wolverine.
Oh, you've got to see it. It's so well done. It's amazing. Oops.
Well, the one that I did see that was really great too was Chocolate for Water. That was a book that was written about circus life during the Depression, and it was wonderful. And believe it or not, it had the guy that was in Twilight. He started that, and he did an excellent job. And it was really great about what circus life was like on a mud show.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out. So, of all of the experiences you have, is there just something that was maybe your favorite experience?
Yes, and I'd like to go back to it, which is my future project. And that was, I spent 2 years in Japan performing my trapeze. And it was the first time I've been out of the country for a long time. And it was a different feel being in a different country that looked at you. You were an oddity. I mean, I was an oddity, but it wasn't a bad oddity. It was something where they appreciated what nature had done.
I love the Japanese. I love Japanese culture. Okay, so I was naturally a blonde when I was a child. I dye my hair black. I wear wigs a lot. And I had blonde hair similar to the color you have right now. And the Japanese I'd go into their shops and they would give me a trinket, like a gift, usually like a stick with like little kitties and little cherry blossoms and things like that hanging from it. And they'd hand me a gift and then they'd pet my hair. And then I would go, and then I went to the concierge at the hotel I was staying at, because my mom was a flight attendant for Continental Airlines. So she took me all over the world as a child. Mostly she flew to Japan, Germany, and France. So I went to those places the most. And I was like, why do they keep wanting to touch me? It's so weird. Like I wasn't used to being touched as a child by strangers, And he said, oh, because your hair is gold. And if they feel like if they touch it, that they could have some wealth and prosperity that'll come to them. But they have to give you a gift in exchange for that honor to be able to touch your hair. And so I'm like, okay, I'll put up with it. But I didn't care for the gifts. All I wanted was a kimono. I'm like, how can they give me all this junk? I want a kimono.
Well, mine was more that they love the quality of my skin, because I will admit I have very good skin even for my age. I have good genetics. And
you don't have to stay for my age. You have very beautiful skin.
Thank you. And we'd go to the saunas and everything. And the ladies would come up to me and just basically want to rub their hands on my skin. It took a while because I can look in their faces and see that this is something they're going to go home and talk about. And you asked me about what was my greatest experience. Okay, Japan. I would love to go back to Japan. Love to go to France and Germany to perform. But while I was in Japan, it was interesting because when we got to our hotel at this very high-end resort, we had to go to the grocery store, and we're starving. Okay, so they take us to the grocery store, and I'm just thinking, I am going to starve. That's it. I can't read anything. So my first meal in Japan was Pepsi and French fries, because that was all I could find, and Oreo cookies. But as we got better, we always had interpreters with us. I was in the store several months later, and there was this little kid in a shopping cart. Little kid, and mom was looking at something, and I came around the corner, and he went. I said, "Well, how you doing? Hi there." And I said it in Japanese because we were learning Japanese. And it was like, the eyes got bigger. And I said, well, you have a good day. And the mom came and she was saying, naising do itashimashite. And I looked at the kid and his mom rolled the kid away. The kid kept going. And I thought, okay, this kid's going to go back to his friends at the sandbox. And he's going to say, guess what I saw today? And it talked. And that was like my best.
Spoke Japanese.
Really. And it spoke Japanese too, right? But it was just, that was his biggest thing. And I said, and that made me so happy because my life has also been making sure that children know you can do this too. Don't be afraid of going after your dreams. Don't be afraid of trying something just because it's not what the crowd is doing. It doesn't make it a bad thing.
What I really like about you is that you are a person who is not afraid to literally sometimes step into new arenas as an example to others, to show them this is possible. If I can do this, you can do this. Like you said, at the beginning of our conversation, I said that you were, identified as a senior, and you said, thank you for acknowledging that, because that is something you wanted to bring to the spot, to put a spotlight on, is that this isn't anybody at any age can do whatever they want to do. And I really like that. And I also know that in some of the other things that you've done and some of the other adventures that you've had, you've also stepped into arenas where people don't all look like you. And that is sometimes difficult, especially being born when and where you were born and where you were raised. And I know that there have probably been difficult times, but you're still stepping into those situations that might have at times been uncomfortable, might have been racism or bigotry that has been in your face. I myself, as a lesbian woman, have been in those situations where I'm like, this is my wife. And I just kind of look at their expression and they're like taken aback. They didn't expect me to say, this is my wife. And I actually do enjoy, just like that kid, like, I love that expression, reaction, to go to change people, because it does change how people see you and how people see not only you, but how you represent. Even though we're just ourselves and we're just individuals, we still somehow represent a people.
Yes.
We represent a gender, we represent a sexuality, we represent a race, we represent a culture. And you're going in and exposing people that may not have been exposed to someone who is different than themselves. And I think that's very admirable, and I love it, because you're adding that spice to life that people need. You are the spice.
That was one thing with the lady with the walkabout too, is because it also brought people together like that. It brought the gender. It brought the people who had just gotten out of retirement. They've been working all their life doing something, and now they've always wanted to do this. And now they're with this group of people, and you get to meet different people. That's the whole idea to me of life, is not just doing different things, but is meeting the people who are doing it. Because how are you going to know what that person's like if you're not going to talk to them? And it's amazing that as long as I've been doing Comic-Con, all the years I've been doing Comic-Con as a vampire, I will always get stories of someone telling me about, boy, they remember you as a vampire. They were talking about you and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I just go, well, that's interesting, because nobody talked to me. I mean,
you make an impression. You make an impression. Trust me, my wife and I never forgot when you walked up with those white contacts and that gray outfit. You just looked scary, but you looked amazing. You definitely know how to make an entrance. Okay. You definitely know how to make an entrance, and you're unforgettable. And as a person who's also very dramatic, has a dramatic flair, has a persona that is kind of known. I do find that more people will talk about you than talk to you about you. So I find that sometimes people have talked a lot about me, and I don't know anything about that until it comes full circle, or I somehow get wind of it, and they're like, "Oh, everybody thinks this of you," and I'm like, "Nobody told me." But I think that there's an awe that comes with that. And I don't know if you dress up every day, but I do. I dress up. I always put on a full face, and I'm always dressed up. And I find that even in a mask at the grocery store, people will stop in their tracks. I had a lady chase me out of the store just to tell me how cute I looked
Oh,
in my Christmas dress, because I was recording some Christmas music that day, or I was going on to a gig to do Christmas music, and I have a persona as Miss Christmas, and so she literally chased me out of the Rite Aid just to tell me, "Oh my gosh, you just made my day. You made me so happy to see you." And it's funny how friends and people you know don't typically say these things as much, like complete strangers. And to me, when it makes other people that happy, and I get that kind of joy and that spark of joy, and people even coming and saying, "I wish I could dress like that." And I'm like, there's absolutely no reason you can't. There's literally, I'm a big woman, so you can't even say it's all because I'm petite and wear, I can wear tiny clothes or anything. No, I'm a big lady. I'm 5'10" and 300 pounds. I'm a big lady. And so when people see me and I'm dressed up and I definitely stand out and make an entrance, the way that I do, and it makes people's day, there's a sense of joy you get from that. And I think some people might mix that up with an ego or vanity, and it has nothing to do with
nothing to do with that. No. And in these times, just what you said, that's what's necessary. I make sure when I go out, because I'm also a caregiver, but I make all my masks. So I wear my spikes, or I'll wear
I love your spiky
that have little
masks.
eyes on it. Yeah. And put your face on. And like you said, even with the mask, sometimes I had a couple of days ago, I wore one of my spiked masks and I had my spiked glasses on. And this father, his 8-year-old daughter, wanted to tell me how much she liked my mask, and he gave her the permission to come to me and say, "I really like your mask." And she was adorable. She sort of looked like Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. She's so cute. And I knew to stand where I was, don't make any, sudden moves. And I just said, "Well, thank you so much." Being identical. And she was wearing her mask. It was, the generic blue mask. I said, "But if you have to wear masks, as we have to wear masks, you may as well have fun wearing one." And she just said, "Yeah." And then she walked away.
And those moments just make your day, don't they? They just make your day. They make you smile from the inside out, and you just know you've made their day. She's going to remember that lady in the mask that talked to me, and it's an amazing experience to see how people react. Just like when you guys, when your costume walkabouts, not only is it fun for you to dress up, that's one part. Just putting it all on, putting the whole thing together and going, "Look what I made. I made this character. I made this creation." But then the reaction from people, like, yeah, you have to like the spotlight a little bit. You got to definitely like the spotlight a little bit to do it. But
when people ask you things like, "Oh, can I take a picture?" You betcha. That's why I dressed up.
Tag me.
Yes, tag me. You betcha. Because like I said, I have my websites where I put pictures on and things of that nature, Facebook, so that people can, like you say, get out there and do it. Even in this time that we're doing now, there's nothing wrong with it. And that's unfortunately the thing that a lot of people try to do. They want to pigeonhole everybody. Like you said, you're a big girl. Okay. And there'll be people that go, "Well, why is she wearing that? Or why is she doing that?" But at the same time, you got those people going, "That's a nice combination. Oh, I like her hair." And that's it. They're going to pick something and may not say it to you.
They don't even notice that I'm big. Some people, they're just like, "Oh my God, she's so fashionable and stylish." And I'm like, and that was hard for me because I was also bullied as a kid for being the fat kid. And so I didn't know that I could have style and flair and do all that kind of stuff as a big girl. I was waiting for something to happen, but I already automatically had it and already stood out kind of as a weirdo. I was goth.
You have a voice of the gods. You do know that, right? I have heard you sing. I've been at your performances. You are definitely a songbird. Don't stop that.
Well, the singing will never stop. That is my soul, heart and soul forever and ever. And it helps to also have a little style when you're on stage as well. Yes. But I feel like you're going to keep doing this forever, aren't you? You're going to keep dressing up. You're going to keep creating your characters. Are you going to stop? Do you have any intention?
I'll probably be at the pearly gates, and I'll be the one wearing, a Victorian outfit, a hat with feathers in it, rings, and my dragon lady nails. And if they tell me I can't get in, all hell will break loose.
Well, they're not going to take her down there. She's way too fabulous for that. She needs to be here.
No, I think the devil has had it with me. Yes. There have been a couple of times I have definitely come close to meeting the devil head on. It's just, as long as I'm here, I'm going to do this. I don't care. And it makes other people smile. What makes other people smile, makes their day. It does it helps me to stay above ground.
It does, right? Every day. So you're going to keep dressing it. So speaking of going forward, what's next? What's next for you?
Vamp Zotica is now going to, excuse me and don't be insulted, I'm going to sing.
Ooh, I'm not insulted by other singers at all. What are you? You're going to be a singing vampire. Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
what kind of
I
music?
have been working on some songs and trying to get music videos together, getting the look down. And like I said, with that cross between those three ladies, Eartha Kitt, Mae West, and Jessica Rabbit, I think that it would be an interesting performance. And the thing too, and this is going back to something I've always tried to hit on with people, is that I don't care what gender I perform in. I do fetish, BDSM, the cosplay, Comic-Con, and etc. And I enjoyed a performance I did at a ladies' bar. There's two I performed in, one in Chicago, one here, called the Gossip Girl, of course.
Of course.
And
I performed there too.
yeah, well, I really didn't perform there as much as I had friends perform there.
Oh.
I did a burlesque number there once, which was really kind of cool. But I try to tell people, I say, I'm a performer. I don't need to be gay to perform in a gay bar. I'm here to do a performance, you know? But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with a gay person performing in a straight bar. Let's just look at the performance. That's what it's all about.
We're here to entertain.
And so you're there to entertain. They hired you to come in there and entertain. And it's one of those things where I feel sometimes that I can't break that mold, because especially for the ladies bars, I just go, oh, come now. The best person I ever saw wear a business suit was a gay woman. She rocked that business suit. And it's like, okay, they deserve to have good performers. But it's still a thing of, I don't exactly know why it is I can't break into that market. Again, oh, maybe I'm just too out there.
It's a tough market, even for those of us that identify. And it's also a market that's very difficult to keep afloat, because we are integrating more. There's no need to define this as gay bars and straight bars and women's bars and men's bars. There's bars that have entertainers and flair, and there's bars that might be more straight laced, I guess.
Straight laced.
There's
well, it's like when I was in Japan and we were doing a performance. It was a special performance. The Yakuza had actually bought out the show for one night, and it was beautiful. It was traditional Japanese. None of these chairs and seats. It was absolutely 1,500 people. And my partner, I had this partner at that particular show, he was losing his mind. He was going around going, you know, the Qs are out there. If they don't like the show, and I'm thinking, this is my partner who is supporting me 30 feet in the air. And I just told him, I said, you know what these people are here to see? They're here to see a show. They paid to come in and see the show. The only way you're going to piss them off is if you don't give them the show they paid for.
So true.
Then he stopped in his tracks and went, okay.
Do the show.
And that's it. And whether they're children, you know, we have a local circus here that I'm going to start getting involved with, because the children, they need an outlet. And as I said,
more now than
circus. Yeah. And circus, I have to admit, circus to me was the original blind to whatever you were, brown, red, white, short, because whatever you are, you can contribute to whatever the art form is and push that art form even further. And so with children, again, there are children out there. I can always tell when I get a homeschool kid, because they have no social skills. But as soon as they get to the circus, you give it a week and they are jumping about and rolling on the tarmac with everybody else. And that's it. The children have to be told it's okay. And in circus, oh, it's okay. Fall down, roll over, whatever you want, play with the dog, whatever. So that's how I intend to go into the afterlife. Just representing, telling people it's okay. Oh, that's what you want to do? What's stopping you? Don't listen to what they say. If it's not something you're hurting somebody, if you can afford to do it, if it's free, just go out there and give it a try. Don't do hindsight. I loved it when you decided that you were going to go and pursue your singing career. I was in the background just going, bravo, bravo.
I think that's with you and I. We've been sideline supporting each other from the sidelines. And I'm so glad we finally got a chance to talk and actually get to know each other a little bit better. And it's exciting. You have so much on on the burners right now. You've got so many things in going on, even during COVID, which is difficult because people like me, my career is a little bit on hold. It's been shelved. There's not a lot of opportunities. So what did I do? You make your own opportunities. So I created this show. And so far, this is going to be my 8th episode of Celeste's Quest for Her Best Life. And it's now streaming on Roku and Fire Stick, and it's also on KOCT local news, local channel. And then I have it on YouTube. And so I'm just starting this show out. And so far, I made it really generic. It's Celeste's Quest for Her Best Life, but it's about my quest because I have an insatiable curiosity about the world, about people, especially about characters and people that have like lived their life outside of the lines, and because that's how I live. And it's really, I've always been really interested in just the culture, the arts. And so I've done an episode last week. I learned all about Hanukkah from a Hasidic rabbi. I've never spoken to a Hasidic rabbi until last week. We had a one-on-one interview at a Chabad in La Costa. And then I did a show about the murals of Oceanside and the art that we have on the murals along our coast highway. And I've done one about the San Diego Safari Park and about the animals, because that's where my wife and I spent our anniversary. So it's about things that I'm doing, but also about people that I know. And so I'm so grateful for you being on this episode and for sharing. We go way beyond Kwanzaa, way beyond Kwanzaa.
Yes, and thank you for having me. Absolutely. Thank you.
As we go into Kwanzaa, what are you going to be contemplating on and thinking about as you think about your village, as you think about your harvest, as you think about abundance? What are kind of some of the thoughts that you have going into this Kwanzaa season?
This particular Kwanzaa, as much as I don't use the word blessed, I'm using it a lot for this one because I am in that danger demographic of being over 65 and over, but yet I have not been sick. I have had the opportunity during this time to help seniors who lost their caregivers and to help them shore up until they could get another caregiver, check in on them. So many people, seniors, disabled, people's families have been just sort of lost, and to try and keep them together. And yes, there's a fear that goes around with this COVID thing, but if I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get sick. But what I want to do is while I'm here, reach out. We're doing what's necessary to be safe. So when I go into Kwanzaa, blessed is the word I'm using a lot. I have a roof over my head. I have transportation. I have good friends who check on me, even though they always check on me and I'm out somewhere. But that is what this has brought, because disaster is when you find out who you can depend on. And this is a disaster.
And as a senior, not at yourself, and then working with seniors, because I sing for seniors too. I sing for assisted living and memory care communities. I had 24 communities I was singing for. Only a few were allowing entertainment, but they had me sing outside. They're not allowed to come outside. But I recognize the importance more now than ever because the lack of social interaction, that a lot of them are not allowing outside visitors or not allowing people to leave. And that's part of healing, the interactions we have with people, the connections we have with people, music, entertainment. This is part of what life is about. And when you cut that off, it really can make some people more vulnerable than they've ever been. So it's this really fine line we have to walk of choosing to make the healthy and wise decisions, but also choosing to continue to live. We can't put life completely on hold. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. And you might not have tomorrow. And if you don't enjoy what you have right at this moment, tomorrow's not promised. So you can't really put anything on hold, but at the same time, the whole world's on hold. So what can you do? You have to look at, what are my options? Where can I give? Where can I help? Where can I be of service? Who can I, yeah. And that's what I focus on too, is where can I be of service? And one of the first things that I thought of when everything got shut down was, I'm an entertainer. I got to bring joy to people, find a way to continue bringing joy and healing and happiness to people in a safe way. And it maybe not be singing, even though I would prefer to be singing most of the time, all the time. That may not, I might have to be helpful in other ways. And so this is one of the ways I found was to do my quarantine times, which I was doing for a long time, which was the 5-minute tea episode that I would have. But then from that, I was asked to start this show. And so I guess some people it's getting out there and it's bringing joy. And that's all that really, really matters. As an entertainer, I'm entertaining. I'm doing my job.
That's it. You're still entertaining.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I know when positive. I do my Vamp Exotica, same thing. I'm on video and I say, now this is my stage. So I have to do this. You're a little further along. I want to get where you are with my Vamp Exotica series. So I'm hoping one day to get where you are.
I'm at 7 episodes, girl. I'm maybe 30 days ahead of you. I started Celeste Quest right before Halloween. So that was one of my first episodes. My first episode that came out was Pumpkin Party. And it was just about everything about pumpkins, the health, nutritional benefits of pumpkins, how to make pumpkin spice.
All right.
What the history of jack-o'-lanterns. It was just I've only come that far. And I had to learn how to I have to be an autodidact and really learn how to do all the editing myself and do one of the things you'll crack up if you watch one of my shows is that the credits. Creative director Celeste Barbier, makeup Celeste Barbier, wardrobe, camera 1 Celeste Barbier.
And nobody can say you had help.
Fortunately, once in a while, my wife can help me. She can do a second camera if I need one. But otherwise, this has been a one-woman show, and bringing in people like you, being my first interview that wasn't in person, because with the rabbi and with the other interviews I've done so far, I went in person, wore a mask, did the social distancing, but being able to open it up to be able to talk to more people in more locations this way is going to be invaluable. So hopefully we're still recording.
Well, right? I think what you're doing is wonderful. It's bringing smiles. You are a wonderful personality. And thank you so much for this opportunity to be on your show.
Thank you for all of your time, all of your stories. I love your energy. I love your spirit. And I wish you the best in all of your endeavors, because you're going to keep inspiring people. And I want you to keep pushing out there that you are a senior, because I know too many seniors who think that that's an excuse not to be out there being out of the lines, drawing out of the lines. You're
so true.
Who are you worried about disappointing? I think you should be more outside the lines the older you get, because it's not going to come back to haunt you. Your choices and your decisions are
in your yours. Decision. And somebody's going to learn from you, because we're like living books. The older you get, you're like a living history book of what's been going down. Things like when I tell people about COVID and keeping masks on, and I say, do you realize that I'm from the generation of no shirt, no shoes, no service? And this one girl said, people would go into a store with no shoes on. I said, yes, they would. And they fought so that they could keep going in the stores with no shoes on. So wearing a mask, hey, I'm good.
Now we need to get rid of the bras.
Oh, yeah. And the burning. Well, the bra burning was just before I got out of high school. So I didn't have a lot upstairs to be bothered with anyway. So I didn't understand why burn it. What does it do?
I know I was never abundant in that area either. But thank you so much for joining me and for doing this. And hopefully everything turns out good. This is, like I said, it's my first time, so I'll be editing this. And if you have any last thoughts or anything that you want to give to my viewers about you to promote what you're doing, promote your show, do that and go ahead.
I would like to say that I have 2 websites. One is called MariLewis2018.com. That is my Lady Mari and my pageant website. And then I have my character, vampzotica.com. And that is the naughtiness with fangs vampire. And I support it by selling merchandise on my site. So that's all on my website. And if you do Instagram or Twitter, it's also vampzotica. So I hope people will visit me and give me their input.
Question about vampzotica. Is it all ages appropriate?
I would say yes, because she it's not so much, it's not inappropriate, because I mean, I watch a lot of the anime stuff and what they put on the anime cartoon. Oh my gosh. I would say it's more, again, the three characters, I stay within those boundaries. So, yes, we know that Jessica Rabbit is sexy. Okay. We know that Eartha Kitt, and we know that Mae West was always suggestive. So, no, there's no nudity, no nudity. The language
Really about the
is,
character.
it's about this fun character that's
That
basically,
sings.
but she has bangs. Yes.
I love it. I can't wait to meet Vampsotica and check her out and check out her website and everything that she's got going on, and I'm going to check out your singing too. And I can't wait to hear the music videos that you're working on. And I'm just so delighted to have you on this. And I'm glad that we got to expand our horizons and talk about all the stuff that you've got going on in your life. So thank you again so much, Mari. And I hope we get to talk again soon or see each other at some point. And I'll be watching you.
I'll be watching you. It's a date. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your holiday season. Have a very happy Kwanzaa and Happy New Year.
And bloody bites and kisses to the new year to you.
Thank you. Bye.